Hi, welcome to NCP Masterclass. Today we're going to be having a look at a single map journey. This is an ex-OCR test paper. On the first looks at it, it looks fairly simple, but as with anything, there's always a bit of a curveball thrown into it. A couple of bits of advice first before we start. There's two different ways of approaching this sort of thing in an exam. The first is to sit down, open up your case study, read through the case study, then take your question paper, have a look at your question paper, see what the question is, and then go back into your case study. Now, a lot of people tend to feel that they've got submerged in the story and they've not really picked out information that's particularly relevant. And one of the problems is you then sort of because you know a little bit about the story, you sort of skim across things and probably miss them. Other people find that it's better to do it the opposite way around, and that's before even looking at the case study, they pick up the question paper, have a quick look at the questions, and then go to question one, or in this case we'll into the vehicle schedule, and they literally look at what the question asks. Then they go into the case study for the first time, specifically looking for information that relates to that question. So they're not getting lost in the story, they're looking for specifics. What I would suggest you do is have a look at the bottom of our course. There are case studies there. Try both ways, see which way suits you better. It may be that the original way of looking at the case study first is the best way for you. It may well be that looking at the question and then hunting in the case study for specifics might suit you better. But have a practice, see which way you think. Okay, so let's have a little look at this case study and let's see if we can work out driver schedule from it. So the case study question. Client A intends to operate a delivery route to Minehead and Reading. Anne Brown has asked you to prepare a schedule for the route using one driver. Complete the table for one delivery to Minehead and Reading. Your schedule must begin when the driver starts work in Norwich and end when the goods have been unloaded in Reading. You must show a start time, a finish time, and a clear description of each activity, including break periods and rest periods. You must show the destination for each driving period. Tachograph modes are not required. Right, what I suggest you do is pause the video, have a little look through and highlight the information that you think is relevant to us sorting out how we're going to tackle this driver schedule. When you've had a look, unpause and we'll have a look through together. Okay, see you in a second. Right, what did you find? Okay, let's have a little look. So, we're undertaking a delivery and the route is to Minehead and Reading. So we've already got the starts of the route. We're starting at wherever our starting point is and we're delivering to Minehead and Reading. Anne Brown, totally relevant in the schedule. Your schedule must begin when the driver starts work in Norwich and end when the goods have been unloaded in Reading. Now we have got our schedule. So we know that when we turn up to work in Norwich, our schedule begins then, and we know that our schedule is finishing as soon as we have unloaded our goods in Reading. You must show a start time, a finish time, and a clear description of each activity, including break periods and rest periods. Now, when you come to look at the grid, you'll see that the grid is set out with start time, finish time, and activity description. So they're not looking for too much in depth, but they are looking for a clear description of what you're actually doing, including break periods and rest periods. Okay, so that sort of starts to sound alarm bells, doesn't it? Because we're always going to have break periods from driving putting in, but this question says rest periods. So bear in mind, remember up here, we could be looking at putting in a daily rest period within our schedule. You must show the destination for each driving period and tachograph modes are not required. So, irrelevant what the tachograph's showing, they're not worried about that. But to get your mark when we're driving, you must show that we are driving to somewhere. So, driving to Minehead, driving to Reading. If you don't clarify where you're driving to, you're not going to get the mark. Right, let's have a look at the next slide, see if there's any information on that. Background. Road Services Advice Limited, RSA, is a transport consultancy based in London. Most of its clients are UK transport operators and include small operators and large haulage groups. You are employed by RSA as a support worker. You deal with projects allocated by your manager, Anne Brown, and provide information to her so that she can formally respond to clients. Today's projects, you have been given 4 client files with instructions to provide answers to the questions set out in the accompanying booklet. You will use the information given below. Client A. Client A operates as a general haulier from its depots in Norwich and Taunton. The grid tells us the traffic area that they've got licences for, authorised vehicles, authorised trailers, how many vehicles they're actually operating and how many trailers they're operating. Also gives us the available funds that they have, which is £80,000. Pause the video, have a look, see if any of that is relevant to our driver schedule. So what did we find? Nothing particular, except Client A does have depots in Norwich and Taunton. So let's just bear that in mind. May not be relevant, but let's highlight it just in case we have to refer back to it at all. Right, okay, so let's have a look at the next bit. Future plan, Minehead and Reading deliveries. Client A, now the information we had on the previous slide was Client A. So Client A has been offered a contract for weekly deliveries to Minehead and Reading, detailed below, to begin no earlier than June 2020. The weight of the loads to be carried requires a 40,000 kilogram articulated combination, and just for clarity, 40,000 kilograms is 40 tonne. You could see it displayed in either way. To be acquired, it will operate on the following route. Collect the load from the supplier in Ipswich, which is 70 kilometres from Norwich, average speed of 50 kilometres per hour, loading time 20 minutes. Deliver that load to Minehead, which is 378 kilometres from Ipswich, average speed 70 kilometres per hour, unloading time 15 minutes. Collect the load from Taunton, 40 kilometres from Minehead, average speed 60 kilometres per hour, and loading time of 10 minutes. Deliver the load to Reading, 210 kilometres from Taunton, average speed of 70 kilometres per hour and unloading time of 10 minutes. And then return to Norwich, 263 kilometres from Reading, average speed 70 kilometres per hour. So we're starting in Norwich and the route finishes in Norwich. Client A scheduling rules. Driver shifts starting at all company depots must begin at 6 o'clock in the morning. Drivers must be scheduled 15 minutes at the start of every shift for vehicle walk-round checks. Rest periods away from a driver's normal base may only be scheduled to be taken at Client A's depots. All breaks and rest periods must be scheduled at the latest possible time and for the shortest possible period. Client A costing information. The articulated combination will be acquired, which will cost £120,000, excluding its initial set of tyres. The tractor unit and the trailer will be depreciated over 5 years. Their combined estimated sale value at the end of that period is £40,000. Annual standing costs to be allocated to the articulated combination are £7,000. Driver costs are £135 per day. Fuel costs £1 per litre. The tractor unit will achieve 10 kilometres per litre. The articulated combination will have 14 wheels. Each tyre costs £135.10 and is expected to last for 43,986 kilometres. Maintenance costs for the articulated combination are 24 pence per kilometre, and the articulated combination is expected to be used for 200 days in each year. Right, have a little look through that then, pause, look through it, highlight, and we'll have a look through when you come back. So what have we found on this? A few bits that are going to affect our driver schedule. First of all, as we said earlier, the deliveries are going to be to Minehead and Reading. We can highlight the distances and average speeds. So collecting the load from Ipswich and delivering it to Minehead all gives us 70 kilometres, average speed of 50, loading time. Minehead again, the distance from Ipswich, average speed on loading time. So all four of those are relevant, and bear in mind something that we're going to have to remember when we look at working out our times is that we've got different average speeds. Yeah, careful to make sure that you don't sort of do the first one at 50 and then do all the others at 50 as well. You've got 50, 70, 60, 70. So that's something to bear in mind. Now we've not highlighted return to Norwich because our question said that our schedule is going to end when we unload at Reading. So that is going to be of no use to our schedule. So if you have highlighted that, just mark it some way so you know that that's not going to be of any use to you. Scheduling rules. Driver shift starting at all company depots must begin at 6 o'clock in the morning. Right, so we now know that we've got a starting point for our schedule, haven't we? We know that we're starting at 6 o'clock in the morning at Norwich. Drivers must be scheduled 15 minutes at the start of every shift for vehicle walk-round checks. So we're going to be starting at 6 o'clock and we know that the first thing we've got to do is we've got to do a walk-round check. Now, something else also springs to mind on this, doesn't it? Because we said earlier on about rest periods and potentially having to put a rest period in. This does say at the start of every shift, vehicle walk-round checks. So if we do have to put a daily rest period in, we've got to remember that we're going to need to put a walk-round check in. Now that also flicks back to the previous line because driver shifts starting at all company depots must begin at 6 o'clock. And on the previous slide we highlighted, didn't we, that client A has two depots. It has Taunton and Norwich. So we're dealing with Norwich now, but bear in mind that Taunton is also a depot. Will that come into play later on? We'll see. Rest periods away from a driver's normal base may only be scheduled to be taken at client A's depots. So we know that that sort of clarifies the one above, that if we're going to put a daily rest in, will it be that we put a daily rest in at Taunton with it being a depot? All breaks and rest periods must be scheduled at the latest possible time and for the shortest possible period. Yeah, standard comment within the exams. Costing information, nothing there of any relevance whatsoever for a driver schedule. Let's have a look at the next bit then. Client B. Client B owns two retail shops in Stevenage and Oxford. It operates three 7,500 kilogram lorries from the authorised operating centre at its Stevenage branch and two 3,500 vans which tow 2,000 kilogram trailers from the authorised operating centre at its Oxford branch. The grid gives you the traffic areas, authorised vehicles, trailers and how many they're operating, and also the available funds for client B of £57,000. Future plan, client B has been offered a contract by the owner of a neighbouring retail outlet, OCR Furniture Limited. The work would involve delivering the neighbour's goods to OCR Furniture Limited's own customers. Okay, so pause, have a look through, see if there's anything relevant, highlight it, and we'll have a look in a second. Okay, so did we find anything? No, we didn't, did we? All of that is to do with client B. So none of that has any reference at all to client A and doesn't affect our driver schedule. So next page, client C. Client C operates a fleet of refuse lorries, caged vehicles, all over 3,500 kilograms. Each vehicle is dedicated to collecting one of general waste, plastics and paper for recycling, glass for recycling, compostable waste from households or trade waste. It operates two 3,500 kilogram vans used by supervisors to complete spot checks on the collection routes. The grid gives us the traffic area, authorised vehicles and trailers and the number that's operated, and the available funds. Client C operations. Client C contracts with its local authority to collect waste. The contract requires the following tasks to be completed. Door-to-door household waste collections. Each vehicle completes one route each working day. General household waste collections, 35 routes spread evenly Monday to Friday. Household plastic and paper waste collections, 35 routes spread evenly Monday to Friday. Household glass collections, 35 routes spread evenly Monday to Friday. Household compostable waste collections, 35 routes spread evenly Monday to Friday. Trade waste collections from industrial estates, 10 routes spread evenly Monday to Friday. Each vehicle completes 2 routes each working day. And delivery of new plastic bags for rubbish bins in 3 shopping areas and collection of filled bags from its workers on site. These deliveries and collections are completed by one of the household waste collection vehicles as convenient on their routes. Again, have a quick look through, pause the video, highlight if there's anything that is relevant, and then we'll have a look in a second. Right, so again, nothing of relevance, this is all client C. However, you still need to read it through because they might have buried something of relevance written in there that says that this is relevant to client C and to client A or something of that ilk. So we've still got to read through it and just check to make sure there's nothing there. But you're right, in this one, nothing. So let's have a look at client D. Client D operates as a member of a pallet network from its only operating centre in Glasgow. Its fleet comprises 5 7,500 kilogram lorries, 4 18,000 kilogram lorries, 1 44,000 kilogram tractor unit, 1 dual purpose vehicle, 1 12,000 kilogram drawbar trailer and 1 semi-trailer. Again, the grid gives us traffic area, authorised vehicles and operating vehicles and trailers and the available funds. Future plan. Change driver rotas. Client D intends to change the working patterns for its drivers, aiming to increase efficiency. The plans include adding a night shift. Its managing director is worried that the proposals might result in breaches of working time regulations. Future plan, upgrade driving licence. One of Client D's drivers, Colin, passed a Category B driving test in May 1995 and has passed no other tests. He is currently employed as a driver. He holds a current driver qualification card and a current digital tachograph driver's card, both valid until 2024. The company's transport manager wants to upgrade Colin's driving entitlements so that Colin can drive the articulated combination and a lorry towing the drawbar trailer. Financial standing. The Senior Traffic Commissioner's statutory document number 2 states the following. The finance required for each authorised vehicle is based on the rate of exchange for the euro as set each October. The Secretary of State previously concluded that under EU legislation, financial standing limits should be the same for both national and international licences as they existed. Operators who apply to add to the number of vehicles on their licences will be checked against the new limits. In the case of multiple licence holders, the levels apply to the first vehicle and then the total remaining number of vehicles across the licences. Okay, so again, pause, have a look, highlight, and we'll have a look at it when you come back. So have we found anything on this one? Again, nothing. They've not buried any little curveballs in there, so that's good. So all of that, client D, nothing to do with our client A. Let's have a little look at what we've found then in total. So what we've done is we've put all of the information together that is going to affect our driver schedule. So what you should have highlighted is that we're talking about depots in Norwich and Taunton, that our future plan is Minehead and Reading deliveries, so that's the schedule we're talking about today. Collect the load from the supplier in Ipswich, 70 kilometres from Norwich, average speed of 50 kilometres per hour and a loading time of 20 minutes. Deliver load to Minehead, 378 kilometres from Ipswich, average speed 70 kilometres per hour, unloading time 15 minutes. Collect the load from Taunton, 40 kilometres from Minehead, average speed 60 kilometres per hour and loading time 10 minutes. Deliver load to Reading, 210 kilometres from Taunton, average speed 70 kilometres per hour, unloading time 10 minutes. And driver shifts starting at all company depots must begin at 6 o'clock in the morning. Drivers must be scheduled 15 minutes at the start of every shift for vehicle walk-round checks. Rest periods away from a driver's normal base may only be scheduled to be taken at client A's depots. So remember what we said, if we're talking about putting a daily rest period in, it can only be taken at client A's depots, which brings that into play. Depots Norwich and Taunton. And all breaks and rest periods must be scheduled at the latest possible time for the shortest possible period. Right, okay, so where are we going to start? Well, first thing we're going to start with is we're going to work out the route that we're talking about. We know that we're starting at Norwich Operating Centre. We also know that we're going to be starting at 6 o'clock. The route's been given to us, so that's pretty good because we're going to start at Norwich and then we're going to go to Ipswich. Once we get to Ipswich, we're then going to go to Minehead. From Minehead, we're going to go to Taunton, and from Taunton, we're going to go to Reading. Now remember what it said in the question. It said in the question that once we have unloaded in Reading, that is the end of our schedule. Yeah, so that's as far as we're going to go. Okay, so bear in mind that we have established that a walk-round check is going to be needed every shift and rest periods at clients' depots. Yeah, important that we remember that and bear that in mind. Where can we start? Well, we can start right at the beginning because that's the information we're given. We've got to populate the start time, populate the finish time, and a clear description of the activity that we're doing. So we know that we're starting at 6 o'clock in the morning. First thing we're going to do when we get there is we have to do a walk-round check. That's been scheduled, that we have to do a walk-round check, must be 15 minutes. So we're going to start at 6 o'clock. We're going to do our walk-around check and we're going to finish at 6:15. Yeah, that's going to be the start of our schedule. What do we do when we have finished our walk-around check? We've got to go to Ipswich, haven't we? We've got to drive to Ipswich to collect our first load. We know that's going to be starting at 6:15. So, what information have we got for Ipswich? We know it's 70 kilometres from Norwich, and we know that we've got an average speed of 50 kilometres per hour. So we can start working out our schedule. Grab the trusty calculator. So always put the kilometres in first and then divide it by the average speed. So we've got 70 kilometres divided by 50 kilometres per hour gives us, on the calculator, 1.4. Now, left-hand side of the decimal point is complete hours, so we're talking of 1 complete hour, and the 0.4 is a proportion of a full hour, so it's 40% of a full hour. If we take the 1.4 and multiply it by 60 minutes in an hour, that gives us 84 minutes. Yeah, so we are 1 hour and 24 minutes. So that is our travelling time from Norwich through to Ipswich. So we can start filling that in, can't we? So we're going to start at 6:15. We're going to drive to Ipswich. Remember, we put a clear description, drive to Ipswich. We're going to add 1 hour and 24 minutes onto that. So we're going to arrive in Ipswich at 7:39. Once we get to Ipswich, what have we got to do at Ipswich? Well, once at Ipswich, we've got to load the goods, and that's going to take 20 minutes. So we can populate the next line. We're going to start at 7:39 because that's the time that we arrived in Ipswich. We're going to load at Ipswich. Remember, we're clarifying what we're doing and where for maximum marks. And it is 20 minutes, so we're going to finish at 7:59. Now, once we've loaded, what do we do then? Well, next thing we do is we're going to have to drive, aren't we, through to Minehead. So we're going to start our driving at 7:59. Drive to Minehead. How far is Minehead? Let's have a look. 378 kilometres from Ipswich. Average speed 70 kilometres per hour. So let's have a look and see how long it's going to take to drive. 378 kilometres divided by average speed of 70, not 50 this time, average speed of 70, gives us 5.4. 5 complete hours and 40% of an hour. So 5.4 is 5 hours and 24 minutes. Yeah, so 324 minutes in total, 5 hours and 24 minutes. Now, bear in mind we can't do that, can we? Because after 4.5 hours, we have to take a driving break. So do we just take a driving break at 4.5 hours on the way to Minehead? Of course we don't. We've already driven 1 hour and 24 minutes, haven't we? So this journey is going to take us 5 hours, 24 minutes. We need to take off the previous driving, the hour and 24 minutes, and that's going to give us 3 hours and 6 minutes driving that we can do before we can take a break, before we have to take a break. Yeah, so we can't go off and drive 4.5 hours, 3 hours and 6 minutes and then take a driving break, because we'd have driven 4.5 hours in total cumulative driving. So we'll drive to Minehead and finish time will be 11:05 for that activity, because that's when we're going to stop and take our driving break. So we can populate the next line, 11:05. After 4.5 hours, we have to take 45 minutes break. So we'll take our break from driving and we'll finish that at 11:50. Once we've finished our 45-minute break, we can then continue driving to Minehead. So how long have we got left to drive to Minehead? Well, it was 5 hours and 24 minutes, wasn't it, the total journey? We've already driven 3 hours and 6 minutes. So that leaves us with 2 hours and 18 minutes left to complete. So we can start at 11:50, we add on our 2 hours and 18 minutes, driving to Minehead gives us 14:08 when we arrive in Minehead. So we've complied with all rules and regulations so far. We've not driven for more than 4.5 hours without taking a break. We've taken a break and we've concluded our driving and we've arrived in Minehead. Okay, cool. What do we do when we get to Minehead? Minehead, unloading 15 minutes. So that's going to be our next schedule, next point on the schedule, isn't it? 14:08, unload at Minehead to 14:23. Yeah, right, so 14:23, we're now ready to leave Minehead and go off to Reading. Yeah, sorry, apologies, go off to Taunton. So Minehead to Taunton, 40 kilometres from Minehead, 60 kilometres per hour. So again, we can work that out on a calculator. We can put 40 kilometres divided by 60 average, gives us 0.6666. Yeah, so we're 2/3 of an hour. Now, if you do it on the calculator and multiply it by 60, you're going to get 39.999999 minutes, which is 40 minutes. And as we know, 2/3 of an hour is 40 minutes. So we can populate that as well, can't we? Leaving at 14:23, we're driving to Taunton, and we're going to arrive at Taunton at 15:03. So next stage, once we've loaded at Taunton, is we've got to take that load to Reading. Reading, 210 kilometres from Taunton, average speed 70 kilometres per hour. So let's just work out the driving time on that. Nice easy sums, isn't it? 210 divided by 70 gives us 3 hours. So we've got 3 hours driving there. Let's have a little look and see how much driving we've done so far. What have we done? Well, we have done 1.4 hours. We've done 5.4 hours. We've done 40 minutes. And now we're talking about another 3 hours. So in total, that's over 10.75 hours worth of driving. We can't do that, can we? We can only drive a maximum of 10 hours. That's assuming that we have got the facility to extend our driving from 9 hours to 10 hours today. So, if we can't drive 10 hours from the start of the schedule to the end of the schedule, then we were right in what we were assuming. We've got to put a daily rest in. And that daily rest being having to be taken at Client A's depot is going to come in here at Taunton, because we've already established that it is a depot. So let's put a daily rest in then, yeah? 15:13. What daily rest do we need? 11 hours regular daily rest? What about a 9-hour reduced daily rest? Is there anything in the schedule that gives us an indication on how long the daily rest should be? Yes, there is, isn't there? Because in the schedule it tells us driver shifts starting at all company depots must begin at 6 o'clock in the morning. We're at a company depot at Taunton. We're having a daily rest. We're therefore starting our next shift. So we can't do anything on this schedule before 6 o'clock in the morning. Let's populate that. So 15:13, we're going to take a daily rest until 6 o'clock in the morning. And then at 6 o'clock, we can start again. What's the most important thing to remember when you start your next shift? It's the 15 minutes walk around check at the start of every shift. So 6 o'clock to 6:15, we're going to do a walk around check. Yeah, we're now ready to continue with the journey. Yeah, and our journey is to drive to Reading. Yeah. How long did we work out it was? 210 kilometres divided by 70, 3 hours. We're going to start at 6:15. So 6:15, start driving to Reading, arrive Reading 9:15. Where are we finishing our schedule? The question told us to finish our schedule after we had unloaded at Reading. So we need to populate that, don't we? 9:15, unloading time 10 minutes, 9:25, our schedule's finished. So, quick look to make sure that we've hit everything that we need. Walk round check at the beginning of day 1, walk round check at the beginning of day 2. We put a daily rest in because otherwise all of the driving added together would be over 10 hours. So we put a daily rest in, and it is at Taunton, and Taunton is a depot. So we've met all the criteria we need. We've not driven more than 4.5 hours at any point without taking a driving break. So there we have it. Driver schedule complete. Hopefully that helps. We've got other masterclasses as well if you'd like to take a look at them. Any information that you need, any help you need, by all means let us know, we're here to help. Do recommend that you have a look at the case studies at the end of our course, have a go through them. Firstly, try and see which way suits you, whether case study first or question first, but also it's good practice. Pop them through to us, we can give you constructive feedback, partly to see if you've got the knowledge, if you're picking the knowledge up, but also a lot of it is about exam technique, and we can give you advice on the exam technique as we go through. Thanks very much. See you soon on another masterclass. Bye for now.